Well, howdy once again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of CFR Flashback. I'm David Poulsen alongside Dustin Edwards. And you know, Dustin, as we look back on night number 3 of Canadian Finals Rodeo 2019, oftentimes night number 3 becomes really a pivotal night because by then the races are starting to shape up a little bit. Those who haven't done well need to do well. And the tension is mounting, the excitement is building, and that's exactly, I think, what happened in round number 3 of 2019 at the Centrium in Red Deer.
Yeah, you said it is very pivotal because if you need to make up some ground, you're at that halfway point, and it's a very big performance. And with so much on the line, 6 performances goes by awfully fast. So you really got to make a move in round number 3, and there was numerous athletes that made big moves on this night. That was very crucial to Canadian champions being crowned and how the standings all kind of unfolded.
So what were the moments that kind of jumped out at you from round number 3, 365 days ago?
Well, it doesn't seem like it was 1 year ago, but there was a couple pretty cool moments for me. I know one for sure I remember in the tie-down roping was Blair Smith, who was at his first Canadian Finals Rodeo and, of course, was only, 45 minutes from home in Wimborne. He is 7-8 to win the round and get that victory lap inside the Centrium. So I thought that was a pretty cool moment. Of course, he had tons of family and friends and a brother competing. So I think that was a pretty cool moment. But the big one that really stuck out for me was a Richie champion in the bareback riding. I'm 3 for 3 on picking the bareback riding as one of my highlights, but he matched up with Stevie Nicks as such a cool horse. They were 88 1/4 to open round 3. So that bareback ride was phenomenal by Richie Champion. And those were kind of the 2 big moments for me on night number 3.
You know, one of the big moments for me was Ty Miller, the great Wainwright steer wrestler. You know, he hadn't been to the Canadian Finals Rodeo for a decade or more. And I was at Brooks the night when he clinched getting back to the Canadian Finals Rodeo. Night number 3, he jumps out, wins the round in 3 and 5, and he and his family were just so excited. It was really a wonderful moment in that go round number 3. And of course, our guest tonight, Hunter Koch, and the team roping, he teamed up with Matt Sherwood, and they won the go round the second time in a row. And those 2 guys were starting to light it up as we saw throughout the rest of the week. And we're going to talk to Hunter in just a couple of minutes. And it was the other one that kind of stood out for me too was last night we talked in the barrel racing about one of our youngest barrel racers absolutely jumping out and being spectacular. And tonight it was one of the veterans. It was Angela Ganter, the Texas cowgirl, jumping out and winning the round. So it was a very big contrast from the night before, but just as exciting. And as we pointed out, just a great round number 3.
It was, and I love that moment with Angela, and I still remember the run vividly. It looked so effortless, and she ran through, and we waited for the time to come up, and I was like, wow, that was really fast, really good. And yeah, that was a really cool moment for her.
Well, it really was, and a cool moment for us is our opportunity to meet one of our champions, and of course, he's the healing champion for 2019. He's down there in Vernon, Texas, but he's with us tonight, and we're very excited to be bringing into our interview right now, Hunter Koch. Well, it is a real pleasure to have Hunter Koch join us. He's down there in Stephenville, Texas. I said Vernon, but he's in Stephenville tonight, and it's awfully good to have the healing champion of 2019 with us. What a great Canadian finals he had, and we're going to talk with Hunter right now. And Hunter, first of all, welcome to CFR Flashback, and thanks for taking the time to be with us.
Well, thank you, guys. I appreciate it. I'm excited.
We always like to take a moment to kind of get to know the guys a little bit. Not everyone in Canada is going to be familiar with Hunter Koch. And so take us through your journey to becoming not just a team roper, but a world-class team roper, as it turns out.
Well, thank you guys for that. But it all started – I started a little late, to be honest with you. Probably my freshman year in high school is when I started taking team roping or healing seriously, and because I always wanted to be a calf roper. And first of all, I'm a first-generation rodeo cowboy. None of my parents rodeoed or roped or anything, so everything was self-taught up until this point. And so it took me a long time to figure a lot of stuff out. But an old man in Vernon taught me how to heel, and he owned quarter horse racehorses. And when I was a freshman in high school, he lived right down the road from the high school, and he told me, he said, if you'll gallop my racehorses for me, I'll teach you how to heel. So I did every day. I walked to his house from school, and I galloped 4 or 5 racehorses, and then we'd rope till it got dark. And that's kind of how it all got started, and how I kind of got the fire in me to want to do that for a living. And up until then, I really didn't, know what I wanted to do, or didn't really know that was my calling. But so that kind of built my fire when I started roping with him every day and started jackpotting, and just progressed. And he's 74 years old, and he ropes and races racehorses for a living. So he was real hardcore about it and taught me how to be that way about it. And so that's kind of how that all got started.
So Hunter, does that give you an awareness to find others like yourself? Because I know that a lot of times rodeo is very family orientated, and it's kind of in the genetics and in the blood, and it's the blueprint of us. Do you kind of find yourself maybe keeping an eye out for someone who was in your position and hoping to someday give somebody the opportunity, kind of like you were able to get?
Absolutely. I'm always looking to find that kind of kid in that scenario to help. I'm actually writing a book right now about that kind of stuff. I've been journaling for about a year and a half now, just for that purpose, to help a kid like myself. If it wasn't for good luck or God's will that I'd have found that old man, who knows where I'd be right now, So I'm actually writing about that right now, and kind of trying to find a way to give kids like me the help they need if they can't have a guy like that to show them what to do. Or it's kind of like trying to help. I'm trying to find a way to give kids shortcuts, I guess, to ways they can get better, and all the things it takes. And so, yes, I'm for sure always looking to find someone that needs help, that wants it, but just doesn't quite have the avenue to go down to have that right there in front of them.
I'm excited to see that book. I'll guarantee you I'm going to be one of the guys, even though I may not be one of the young guys that you're talking about, but I'm looking forward to reading it when it comes out. But, speaking of getting together with older gentlemen to kind of further your career, the story of you getting together with Matt Sherwood at the start of the 2019 season is so much fun. Why don't you share that with us?
Yeah, so I was started out the winter roping with Bubba Buckaloo in the I think it's in February maybe, and so I was needing a partner, and Colton, I was around him every day, so he got to looking around, and he seen that Matt Sherwood needed a partner, so he kind of hooked us up together to rope. And none of us, me or Matt, have never spoke to each other or talked to each other. I knew who Matt was, but I know he dang sure didn't know who I was at that time. And so Colton lined it all up, and we ended up roping at Tucson, and we placed in the second round at Tucson. And then they always have the big Mike Survey roping down there, and me and him won second in the Survey roping that year. And I kind of heard through the grapevine that Matt was wanting to go to Canada and rodeo some, and I wanted to go real bad and didn't have a partner that wanted to go. So I got to talking to him, and finally I talked him into roping. I don't know why he decided to rope with me. It was just pure D luck, and we ended up starting the year together, and the rest was he's one of my most favorite people I've ever met, and a great friend still. I still talk to him every day, and that was a great experience for me.
He tells a great story about, as you did in Tucson, when you guys got together for the first time, and he's riding around outside the arena looking for and talking to people and saying, "Does anybody know my partner, Hunter? Anybody seen him?" And it was just great. But I'll tell you what, let me ask you this, and you talked about a couple of those early successes, but when was it that you two kind of realized, hey, this team could do something?
Yeah, so we started off in Canada. Was the first few places we roped at a couple of rodeos. I think it was Grand Prairie, and then like Leduc maybe, and a couple of those rodeos. And we started placing along, and I felt good about it. And then we came down south, and we went to like Greeley and Reno and a couple of those, and we placed at Reno in the first round, which was basically our first real big rodeo to go to. So I was excited about that. And I don't know, just the vibe being with a guy like Matt Sherwood you have is nothing but positivity and a great attitude, whether you're doing good or bad. And, and there was a time that summer that we went through, about a 2-week slump of not winning much. And 2 weeks in the summers feels like you've gone months without winning. But that just the always pushing forward attitude, the positive attitude, the kind of the I got you, you got me mentality to the team, and we're all going to be all right. And just you just knew it couldn't not work is kind of how it felt. You knew it, y'all were going to be a great team, because I kind of have the same outlook as Matt does on things. I like to be positive and happy all the time. I'm not a downer. So I loved rodeoing with Matt. It was a great experience for me, and he taught me so much. And just through those really the first few weeks of us really rodeoing hard together, I knew we were going to be a good team.
Well, I got to ask you, Hunter, of course, for the Americans coming up to Canada, you got to get that rodeo count in to get to the Canadian Finals. So, at what point was the timeline, okay, we're winning some money, we're going to get our rodeo count, we're going to get to the CFR. At what point in that was, CFR and Canadian title? Was that in the conversation pretty early on, or how did it all kind of transpire throughout the year?
Well, we were, everybody always says they kind of have at the beginning of the year, you talk to the veterans in Canada, and they kind of have a number they say where you're safe at, which it's hard to really trust it or believe in it. So about the end of July, maybe, we were at that number kind of. I think it was like 11 or 12,000 or something. And, the guys are telling you you're in or whatever. And we just didn't really know for sure, but we still had Strathmore and Regina and Armstrong and those good rodeos left. We were rodeoing hard down south, and we flew up there, and we went to Strathmore and Regina, and I think we won third at Strathmore and second at Regina. And those are two really big rodeos down there. And after that, we knew we were for sure in. And I looked at Matt on the ride home, and I said, the only thing you haven't won, Matt, was the Canadian world title. I said, we need to do it right here. And he just grinned and laughed at me, and he said, yes, sir.
Well, let's pick up on that, because, of course, then you're at the Canadian Finals Rodeo. Get off to a little bit of a slow start in that first round, but then back-to-back wins, 3-7, 3-8. How did you start to feel at the Canadian Finals Rodeo? Did you guys feel like, hey, we're hot, we're where we need to be, it's going good? How did you feel?
Well, that first round, I wasn't quite sure of the setup, and I was really nervous because I never roped in a setting like that, like a big stage in a small arena with fast times. And because at that time I hadn't been to the finals yet or anything. And so I was nervous, and I wasn't sure of my horse, but everything was fine. All that was when I roped a leg in the first round, that I think was just jitters. But then after I got that over with and realized that, this is just another rodeo. This isn't nothing new. This is the same thing I do every day. And I knew Matt was going to do the same thing every night. That guy's, he's just amazing at especially at stuff like that. So after I got those first round jitters over with, and then when I caught the second one and we won the round, that was like the nail in the coffin. I guess it just felt like home after that, and just built off that through the week, and you just knew that Matt was coming with that every night. So be ready and just try to keep my mind sharp. And it was a fun time.
Well, you got to be consistent at the Canadian Finals. There's no question. I mean, 3-round wins, and of course, you guys go on to win the average en route to that Canadian title. But I know down in the States, you guys are exposed to some of the best ropers in the world. But what about the 11 teams up here in Canada that qualify to the CFR? The guys, you guys roped phenomenal, but some of these teams, they didn't make it easy to get to that Canadian title. And maybe speak to the competition a little bit.
No, they don't. I mean, these guys, them guys up there are just so familiar with the setup, and they've done that their whole life, and that's, they know, they've been in them Canadian rodeos since they were, so young, and those guys rope amazing, and it happens all, anytime a guy from down here might go up there, they don't realize, I mean, you still got to be 4-1, 4-2 at all these rodeos, and it's not a day off, and that's what the main thing I learned is, you know you don't have to be from down here to rope good, and those guys up there, they all are just as good as anybody. And it's, it was so fun for me to get to meet a new group of people, and everybody was so nice, and you feel like you're a part of another clan when you're up there. And I got friends from up there that I talk to every day still, and it was a blast. But yeah, those guys, it came down nearly to the last night, really. If me and Matt stubbed our toe, I think it could have went two different ways, but I was sure glad it worked out for us.
Let's talk a little bit about, and you alluded to it a minute ago, of the experience. It was a first big finals for you on the pro side, and talk about that experience up there in Red Deer and in the Centrium, and with a crowd pretty darn pumped up about the whole thing, and you guys battling for a championship. How did all of that feel, just to be at that stage?
It felt really good to see where I was at in my game, and all the stuff that I've worked on kind of come together, and the stuff that I've worked on my whole life, to see it through and actually do a good job. And that building was cool. I mean, the first time you go in there and you go and get your jackets and everything, and you just got a sense of pride and accomplishment that you've done something that you drove a lot of miles to get there, and you wore out two horses to get there, and you've blown a bunch of tires, and all that stuff is all worth it to make it there at Red Deer. And I enjoyed it, and it also helped me a lot to get ready for Vegas. I kind of got to see where, it's similar. It's not quite as small, but it's similar. Big crowd, nice indoor building, same fast setup. So it was really good.
Now, you made mention of Las Vegas, and then of course after Red Deer, you guys headed off to the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo, your first one, and of course Matt's been there many times and a couple-time world champion. But talk a little bit about how that first NFR went for you.
It was a really cool experience. I grew up my whole life watching that on TV and learning, and then you want to be there one day, and then you finally get to be there, and it was just a surreal feeling of accomplishing that. But it was me and Matt placed second in the first round, so that was really cool for me. And then we ended up placing, I think, 4 nights that week. We had a good chance. I think in the 7th round by the 7th round we were maybe second in the average, and then we had a few mess ups that took us down. But I was pleased and to know that I made it there, and I did a pretty good job. There was a couple times I messed up, but it was in all a good experience, and it made me want to get there even worse this year. I mean, it made the fire even hotter to get there this year, and I'm glad I got to start roping with Colton and got to get Colton there again this year, because the last time he made it was 2016. So I'm excited about it.
I was pretty excited about that. You guys placing second in that first round, and where you sat in the average partway through, because I had you guys in my pool. I just want you to know.
Yes, sir.
Hunter, I want to ask you, I know last year when the NFR was all said and done, I think you won just shy of $140,000 on the year. And I mean, cleaned up in Red Deer, I think you guys won just over 50 grand over the course of the week. That kind of money for a team roper and a rodeo competitor going down the rodeo trail, and we gave out a lot of money in Red Deer. What does that do for a guy, I mean, for the season you had, and then set you up for the season to follow to try and do it again?
Man, that's everything. It's so important. It costs so much to rodeo during the year, and we're not guaranteed anything, no pay, like other professional athletes. So and we spend probably twice as much as any professional athlete, and it's all out of our own pocket, from the horses to the feed to the trucks and trailers that you got to live out of. I've looked at it the other day. I live out of my trailer 6 months out of the year, so it costs a lot. And those rodeos like that is what allows us to be able to, go on and feed ourselves and our families and pay our bills and, be able to live basically. So that rodeo, like Red Deer and Vegas, without that, this sport would be, near impossible. So that it's very, very important for Red Deer and Vegas, which Arlington this year, but to keep doing what they do and keep allowing us. And I think, with the Cowboy Channel and everything and all these online deals making us, bigger and getting our names out there, I think we can get to where there's, 4 or 5 rodeos like that a year that can pay like that, and getting more fans and more people to watch us. And I think I'd like for the future to just continue and grow and have us to have more opportunities to do stuff like that.
Now, you talked at the outset about the fact that it was Colton Schmidt who brought you and Matt Sherwood together. And 1 year later, here you are roping with Colton Schmidt, I know a longtime friend and another Canadian. How did that come about, where you and Colton got together?
Well, I lived at Colton's house all last year, even when I was roping with Matt. So me and Colton practiced together every single day. And we jackpotted a lot, and we did really good jackpotting together. And when Matt kind of decided he was slowing down and kind of wanting to ease out, it was just a no-brainer that Colton was going to be the next partner that I roped with, just because our chemistry was already there. We were great friends already, and we already had success roping together, and it just felt like the right thing to do. And we started off good. We had a great winter, and ended the summer, and we both made the finals, and it worked out perfect. And I like roping with Colton a lot.
Well,
that's a great family too.
Oh yeah, we'll all be cheering for the 2 Canadian champions, and you're right. Pretty good family to surround yourself with. You can rope all day of the week, 24 hours a day with the Schmidt crew. The question I want to ask you, Hunter, is you roped with Matt Sherwood, a world champion, now roping with Colton, a Canadian champion. Is there anyone out there, and I'm a huge team roping fan, is there anyone out there that would be the dream guy to heel behind, or have you already roped with that person, or who's kind of the one guy you'd be a pinch me moment to back in the box with?
Well, you always have. I've always had heroes and people that I've always wanted to rope behind, and I would say the dream guy for me would be in the Speed Williams, Rich Skelton era. They got I think 9 gold buckles together, and back to like the 90, 93, 94, 95, those years in rope with Speed Williams, that would be pretty cool. But as far as like nowadays, I mean, roping with Matt was about as good as it could have went for me, as far as the stuff I learned and the things he taught me about rodeoing. I feel like set me up for life on how to be and the person to be and how to act and all that stuff. So I think Matt was pretty important in my life to get to rope with him, and I sure was lucky to be able to do that.
So now heading off to Arlington and another national finals rodeo with Colton. Have you guys talked? I imagine you talk all the time, but have you talked about particular goals or aspirations that you have? How you want that finals? I think he's going in around 11th, and you're in about 14th, something like that. What are your thoughts heading into this year's national finals?
Well, we've talked about just doing everything we can to be prepared the right way. You can overdo some things and make it harder on yourself, and you cannot be prepared enough. So, our goal is, we don't want to be just the team that makes it to the finals. And I'm sure everybody's like this, but we want a gold buckle out of the deal. And so we just picked up our NFR practice steers today, I mean, we brought in a whole different type of steer to practice on. They're bigger, they're stronger, they got bigger horns, they're faster, and that's kind of the steers that Bobby Joe Hill brings to the NFR every year. So, just make it as similar as we can to what we're going to be roping, and starting tomorrow, we'll be working at it every day, roping those kind of steers, and seeing how fast we can go with being consistent as well is kind of what we're after. A consistent fast run that's going to place as much as it can, and also that's going to bail us out of, if we draw a bad steer, if we draw, if something weird happens, we can get by it and catch all 10 of them and try to place as much as we can along the way.
So should I be grabbing you and Schmidt as my my pool guys this year?
I think you should.
I'll get on that. Now, one question though, a serious one, because you have a whole lot of Canadian fans, as you probably know. Are you and Colton planning? I mean, the good Lord lets us rodeo next year, and we're all hoping for that up here in Canada for sure. But if things come back to normal, can we look for Schmidt and Cook up here in Canada some?
Yes, absolutely. We'll be there. We were devastated we couldn't go this year, but I would be willing to bet a lot that the first Canadian rodeo that happens, me and Colton will be entered at it.
That's just right. Well, listen, that just about takes care of our time with Hunter Cook tonight. And Hunter, thank you so much again for being with us, and all the very best at the National Finals Rodeo. And we still look forward to having you back here in Canada. You're an asset to team roping, an asset to rodeo, and we love having you up here in Canada. So we'll look forward to seeing you before too long.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I had a blast.
And friends, we hope you'll join us once again tomorrow night at 7 o'clock for our next edition of CFR Flashback. Until then, I'm David Poulsen alongside Dustin Edwards with our special guest, Hunter Cook, saying so long for now. We'll see you next time.